Welcome, everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 142. Glad that you're here. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a veteran, of course, welcome back. Always hit the like, subscribe, notifications. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, you're here because there's a Facebook group called Position to Win Book. And go check that out. With me, as always, as that person who steps in for you, asks the tough questions of me, the Raging Verbalist, is the ever lovely Sandra. Sandra, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And for those of you who don't know, that is not an artificial background. That is a real physical background. Sandra has meticulously cultivated this background. Eventually we'll have, her drawing clouds in that background or something.
Happy little trees,
Oh, happy little trees. Absolutely. So,
There you go.
all right. So, and for the, and also you can go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. Sandra, give me the first question. What are we talking about today? What are we talking about?
All right, we're talking about cutting the cord on cable. So, what exactly is cutting the cord?
Well, it's kind of interesting how language gets mutated and manipulated. But at one point in time, cutting the cord was, getting away from your mother and getting away from home. But now cutting the cord is viewed as, what we're going to do is we're not going to buy television or entertainment from the cable company, which is kind of ironic because more and more people actually get their internet from the same said cord that they are talking about cutting. But what you're really doing is you're cutting out the cable company from them giving you some package, whatever that package might be, and what that's going to look like. It's interesting because when I first moved to California, was selling high tech. There was a company called Scientific Atlanta who ended up building lots of set-top boxes. They may still be doing it, or they're sold out or something. But anyway, it was fascinating because they were telling me how many of these boxes that they were going to be building for the cable world. And at this point in time, of course, I had come from a non-cable environment. I know that's like did we even walk erect? I mean, were the was there dinosaurs still around, and all of that? But still, it was pretty interesting. And but when they showed me the inside guts of a box, there wasn't a lot in there, and now there's even less. So anyway, so cutting the cord is all about saying adios to your cable supplier for your entertainment packages. That's what cutting the cord is, if you've never thought that far along.
All right, so have you cut the cord?
Well, I said goodbye to the cable company. So here's my sad tale of woe. I buy the house that I am in years ago, and I didn't ask a very important question, which is, could we get television or could we get cable? I didn't ask that question. I assumed that was a bad idea. And I lived in what was then called an island, and this wasn't like the island of solitude. This isn't where, Superman's daddy lived or anything. I mean, this was just like it was just a hole in the coverage. So the way my house is situated on the side of a hill, which is a cool thing, being on the side of a hill in California, elevation is like everything. Well, I couldn't get television or much television at all. In fact, for years we had like partial television. I used to actually have my father videotape football games and mail them to me. I mean, I know it's when you're a diehard fan, but I couldn't get the game, any game. So when cable first arrived, we were very happy until it showed up, because we had been spoiled a little bit on cable down in a richer part of California, South Orange County. And so when cable arrived, we were ecstatic until we had just static. It was sucked because we had, it was really a really lousy cable company. And eventually they got bought out. The new guys came in and they spent years upgrading. So where we had, kind of had cable. But as soon as I could get a dish, which I have DirecTV for a very long time, I cut the cord with the cable guys, and they were sad and have been sad ever since. So in that way, I cut the cord for that, but I went to the dish.
So for me, I cut the cord 2 to 3 years ago and decided no more on paying high prices or things like that because they just kept upping the rates. So we ended up going with Hulu Live TV because, yeah, all they do is raise their rates, and I think they're probably still going up.
So you had cable, but you became frustrated like so many other people, poor
Yeah,
choices, more money, more money, more money. And you
exactly.
went, wait a second, what are we really getting? And even though they said they were going to give you more, they didn't. Okay.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right. So yeah, so you
Yeah.
cut the cord, and it has nothing to do with the relationship with your mother, who, by the
No.
way, makes incredible cookies and won't give us the recipe. So there you go.
That's right. All right. So what are the reasons why we shouldn't cut the cord?
Well, I'm in an interesting crossroads, because actually the cable, having gone through multiple cable companies, they have actually deliver and we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now. So I get all of my internet connection through a cable provider. And, I keep getting things in the mail from the phone guys that, they can replace my cable. No, not even close. No, not going to happen, because it's just not as reliable. So why you shouldn't cut the cord, or why I haven't fully cut the cord, in the sense that I still have the dish, is that I live in this kind of strange part of the world that has very poor availability, is a nice way of saying it. I mean, the services suck, just basically. So I still have the satellite dish. And by the way, I had wired my house for satellite when I first got satellite. So when the cable craps out, which it did earlier this week, went down again, because it just does. It's one of those things. So I always have something. So I have the satellite, and then I have the cable. And so yeah, I think if you're in a spot where you want more reliability, maybe that's why you don't do it. The other reason why you shouldn't cut it is that if you're not technically savvy, all I can tell you is that you will probably be very frustrated about the things that you can't get more than the things that you can get. Because I was just in prep for this call, I looked at, how do I get NFL games? And the NFL has a very long web page that tells you how to get the games. And all I can tell you is that you have to do a lot of studying. I don't know if there's a test. I don't know if you get continuing educational units, but that's like a real pain in the, well, it's a pain in the ass. So that's why I don't think that's, for some people, you shouldn't cut it. And especially if you're not tech savvy, don't do it. Because once you finally figure out how to run that cable remote, which the last time we had a cable remote, it had, I don't know, 140 buttons on it or something. But once you get past, that whole thing, then, you probably just, well, you write it out until these things kind of get better.
All right. So what are the reasons why we should cut the cord?
Well, if somebody can get their head wrapped around that most of the stuff that they have on their packages, which is what I ended up doing with my DirecTV package, which I would view as my basic cable, if you will, is I went out and I just took a weed whacker and cut things. Like, so they were showing me I had local sports. Well, there's really not local sports. I live in Southern California, so I get lumped in with LA, even though, it's a short 60 minutes with perfect traffic, 2.5 hours with bad traffic kind of situation. So, I didn't need to see, Sherman Oaks play, Puente Hills baseball. I mean, it just didn't. It was just like a waste of money. So yeah. So, but I think the reason why you should cut it is you just get tired of paying extra money and doing more than you really need to do, because it is a waste of money. So that's why you should cut it. But you got to make sure you can get what you want to get. That's the hardest thing. And speaking of getting what you want to get, so this is what you really should be thinking about getting. If you're going to cut the cord and save some money, well, what you want to do is you want to pick up my book, Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes 3 to 5 years to realize it, Position to Win. You can buy this book physically at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or wherever books are sold. You can order it through them, or you can go to the website, positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. You can also get it ebook electronically, Kindle, get it Kindle, Nook, Apple iBooks. Also, you can pick up my other book, which is Remote Work for a Better World. So you can learn how to do these things better. So you can do that. So if you're going to cut the cord and you want to figure out what you're going to do, those are 2 outstanding ideas. Okay, Sandra, back to it. What do we have?
All right, so looking into your crystal ball, how many more streaming services are going to be launched in the next year or so?
I almost am afraid to give a number because it appears that everybody is going to introduce yet another streaming service. I mean, maybe we should do a streaming service or whatever, but there just seems to be such a huge proliferation. And the thing I wonder about is how many viewers are they going to get? Now, there's been a spectacular failure because CNN Plus spent $100 million to get 10,000 subscribers. I mean, frankly, I think you could have gotten them for less. You could have just offered everybody $1,000 to join, and you would have probably gotten, more people and for less cost. So I think the proliferation of streaming is going to keep going on, just like every other circumstance. You're going to see fracturing. It's going to keep going further. It's going to keep taking over, and I guess we're going to keep growing for the next few years. That's my guess. And we're going to eventually see this thing peak and then crash and burn. I mean, I was just watching a video about all of the free services in 2022 that exist. So away you go there.
All right. Do we really have better options today, or are we just paying more and getting less?
I don't know if we really are getting a lot better options. I mean, everything is a compromise. You have to go and know what you're looking for. I was reading a book about movies. I saw this movie. I said, well, this would be great to go watch. And by the way, it's not a new movie. It's 60, 70 years. Well, it's probably 80 years old. And I went to go look for it, and I Googled, where can I find this in streaming? And it showed me all the places I could go with streaming, and every single one of them, even though I am paying for some of these services, had a paywall and said, give us $4 to rent this thing. So in some ways, I think we have a lot more options. I don't know if we're getting what we're paying for. I also think that it's relatively easy to get more and more services. And I was thinking about getting rid of DirecTV. True story. I went to Sling. And Sling, you had to have the orange package and the blue package and the whatever, all color coded. And I always keep the other service just in case, because I don't, I'm not a real chop it off with an axe. So I'll suffer the cost overage. And it said you have 100 hours of DVR at the time. I mean, some of these services now say unlimited. By the way, if anything ever tells you it's unlimited, don't put it to the test, because you may find out that it's not unlimited. I've had many internet services that said unlimited, and then somebody like me comes along and goes, unlimited, okay, let's go for it, and then it blows itself up. Anyway, had 100 hours on this DVR, saved a bunch of stuff, went back to go watch a couple of titles, and they were gone. Now, there wasn't any really cool thing that said, hey, this happened. So I had to go digging around. And what it finally said is, well, our licensing changed on those titles, so they were deleted from your DVR. Not cool. So in some ways, do we have better options? Maybe if you like something specialized, but the real question is, are we really paying less at the end? If you're a smart, frugal shopper, maybe you are, but for the most part, I think people just end up loading up on a whole bunch more, and we end up paying the same amount, if not more.
So what do you think is the best cord cutting platform?
Well, and this is one of those things where I know more and more people are watching on their phones, on their devices. So they're watching all kinds of things on their phone. But if you're going to actually own a big screen TV, why wouldn't we own a big screen TV? So now you got to figure out, how are you going to get the said streaming service onto it? And we have a lot of different choices. In fact, we probably should even do a whole separate Raging Verbalist about this, because I have been buying bunches of these things. Now, from my standpoint, and by the way, these guys aren't paying, Hulu isn't paying us when Sandra said Hulu. Sling isn't paying us when I said Sling. Well, I actually have found that the Roku is the best platform for me. First off, it has lots of choices. It's more agnostic. It has a really simple remote. And yes, part of the remote gets chewed up because somebody paid money to be on that remote, all of that. But I'm going to tell you, it is the least hassle. And by the way, I don't want clever. I want stupid easy. So I'm giving a thumbs up endorsement for Roku. And here's the real kicker, and I'll be able to tell you even more, but I actually now carry Rokus with me. And when I say Rokus, I didn't have just a lisp in my voice. It was actually because it's a plural. And we're going to see at the timeshare that I'll be at whether or not they work there. They did in the last timeshare. It only worked on one television, but I figured out how to get it. Hotels, by the way, can have really weird connections, but if you can get it to work there, you can actually take your cord cutting simplicity with you. So, Sandra, I know we're running out of time. What do we have? What's the last question? Lay it on me.
All right. So how does this affect advertising and therefore business?
In a word, sucks. And it sucks because we have more and more platforms, so we have more diversified ways to advertise. And the other thing is that the platforms themselves want you to believe that, that they have some kind of knowledge about who's actually watching. But platforms make money by pushing as many ads as they possibly can. So I believe that with technology over time, we're going to figure out how to either skip ads or we're going to do the old fashioned way. So I was watching a ad sponsored show that I wanted to watch. So I'm transported back in time, because all I do is mute it and watch. And the nice part is they have nice little countdowns. So it really sucks. By the way, if you're in marketing or advertising and promoting, which is what I do a lot of, be very wary about where you advertise, because I think that there's some of the worst platforms, or the worst media, let's just call it media, not platforms, out there, are in fact some of these new digital platforms, because I don't know if anybody's watching them, and I don't know if you're getting value out of it. Conversely, you have to think about, what does that have to look like? But I have seen some very slick produced ads that must have cost a fortune running on some of these services. And I understand there used to be a huge disparity between the local ad. I mean, I'm sure Sandra probably remembered watching some of these shows in Nebraska where there would be the local ad, come to Hal's House of Feed or something like that. And there's always a guy walking around talking, and the camera's kind of following them and all that stuff. Well, now so that was on one end of the spectrum, and then the other end is fast cuts, lots of music, all that other stuff. All I'm going to tell you is that if you're doing ads, make sure that you have a way to key them to make sure that they pay off. The real question is how many people are going to keep cutting the cord? I think it's going to be a never-ending cycle. You're going to see more and more people cutting the cord, and it's for all the right reasons, because what's going on is they say, why should I spend a bunch of money for channels that I don't care about? Find out what you're interested in, curate. That's a fancy word of saying, cut out a bunch of things. And if you do that, you'll probably find that cord cutting makes a lot of sense. If you have some great ideas and great recommendations, you can always leave comments. You can go on to our Facebook page, which is position2winbook.com, or Position to Win Book. You can go to position2winbook.com also and pick up a bunch of free stuff and buy the book. With that, I'm going to say we're going to cut the cord at this point in time and call it a day. So For myself, John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and the ever lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist number 142. Like, subscribe, notify, all of the above, and have a great one. And we'll be talking to you real soon.